welcome to LA Rams Central. I'm flying solo on this one. Just for this one episode, I want to do a playoff review on, not a playoff review, but an emotional support video, if you will, for the Ramily out there. Eric and I are going to pick up Wednesday reviewing all the wild card games and giving our analysts. And then we'll do probably on Friday the divisional playoff game review, and then a breakdown on Wednesday, and then a championship review on Saturday, and then a breakdown on Wednesday, and then a Super Bowl review. Probably 2 or 3 Super Bowl reviews as we go through, and then a Super Bowl wrap-up show, and then that will be it for the regular season, or for the season, I should say. Personal note, I went 0-2 in the wild card games in my predictions. It was 13-10 like I thought it would be at halftime, but the Rams' third quarter just never clicked in. I want to start by saying to the fans out there that I hope you understand now why I'm so pissed off that we rested our starters in Week 17. We are a young team. Jared Goff does not have enough games under his belt. We scored as many points against San Francisco as we did against Atlanta with our starters in. You know, I don't want to hear about injuries. I told you guys that. You can't take that mindset. You're taking a quarterback who's red hot and you're putting him on the bench for an entire game. You're taking a running back who's in the middle of an MVP fight, who's red hot, and you're putting him on the bench. You're taking an offensive lineman who's a veteran who has to go up against one of the fastest rushers in the NFL in Atlanta, or you're going to end up having Julius Peppers. So either matchup is not going to be one that you want Whitworth to be cold going into. Havenstein needs all the reps he can get. Jermone Brown needs all the reps they can get. Sullivan can handle his own. There were certain players it made sense to maybe rest. But when the decision was made, if the decision was going to be made to play Todd Gurley and Jared Goff, then you've got to play your starters. I don't know if that had anything to do with this game, except for the fact that the Rams clearly couldn't get out of their own way for the first quarter and a half. But I don't want to hear about inexperience. In 1999, the Rams made the postseason with exactly 3 starters total having NFL postseason experience. Adam Timmerman, our left guard, Jeff Wilkins, our kicker, and I want to say Mike Jones, our linebacker. That was it. Everyone else on the football team, 0 postseason experience. Inexperience in the postseason isn't what cost us this game. What cost us this game was we entered with a game plan that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, I'm not criticizing McVay here, so don't think I'm all of a sudden jumping all over McVay. You've got sorry, my phone just went off. You've had problems against the run all year long. You have a quarterback that is a pocket passer. And I didn't see very many blitzes up the A-gap the entire game. You've got Aaron Donald in the A-gap. For a while there, you had Brockers in the A-gap. And yet, what we should, and you can easily have Brockers stunt to the B-gap and blitz through the A-gap with one of your middle linebackers or even safety. And you leave the guard one-on-one with Aaron Donald, and Alex Mack either has to make a decision to block Aaron Donald and double team, letting the A-gap pressure come through scot-free, or double teaming it, blocking that, double teaming Aaron Donald and having your other guard block the A-gap and kind of pass everyone down the line from there. So I'm not really sure what the Rams' strategy was going into this game, They were afraid of Julio Jones. Julio Jones hasn't been a threat all year long. Julio Jones wasn't even a threat in this game. He had a decent day, but I felt like the Rams defense kind of held their own. Offensively, we abandoned the run too quickly yet again. Jared Goff was clearly cold as ice. For me, I do point the finger at resting the players. And this is why I told everyone, and everyone ripped me and goes, well, would you be really upset if Jared Goff got injured in the wild card game or before the wild card game? No, because Jared Goff wouldn't have gotten injured before the wild card game. The Rams had something to play for. And had the coaches framed it in such a way, because the Saints didn't lose until the Rams had already lost. So you had no way of knowing if New Orleans is going to win or lose that football game. And if you said, guys, we got to pound the paint here and beat the 49ers to make sure that we're the 3 seed because we don't know what New Orleans is going to do, your guys would have come out and treated this like you've been saying all year long, one game at a time, here's another game, and you would have had momentum, 2-game momentum going into the postseason. You would have been winners of your last, 1, 2, 3, 4. You would have won 4 of your last 5 games going into the postseason, and you would have had a quarterback that had played and been consistent. Guys, when you rest players, this is what happens. Now, I'm hoping for McVay that this was a revelation. I'm hoping he learns from this mistake and he moves forward and doesn't make this mistake again in resting his players. Again, we all don't like New England for the most part, people that are Ram fans. There's a few of you out there I don't get, but hey, welcome and we're glad to have you. Bill Belichick doesn't rest his starters. That's all I need to know. What does the best in the world do? Copy that. Don't copy what John Gruden did. Don't copy what Jay Gruden does. You guys haven't won anything. Gruden won 1 Super Bowl with somebody else's talent after bailing on Oakland. Now, he's a great coach, but I'm not going to put him in the same level as Bill Belichick. So you need to learn not from people that taught you, because you need to learn from them too, but you need to learn from people that you follow. And any coach worth their salt is going to follow Bill Belichick. He doesn't rest his starters. I know he couldn't rest them this year because they were in a race for the division or for the number 1 seed. I get that. But I will tell you, a couple years ago, when they played the Seahawks in the Super Bowl and they didn't rest anybody and they had not only the division wrapped up, they had a 3-game lead on the 1 seed, or at least a 2-game lead on the 1 seed, whatever it was, and no threat, yet they played their starters. They played their starters. That's what you do. I'm not worried about injury week 1 through 17. It happens, it happens. You guys are falling into the media garbage that says, oh, you got to rest your starters because what happens if somebody got injured in the first quarter of a meaningless game? It's not meaningless. Certainly not to Todd Gurley and his MVP chances, which took a major hit. So I don't want to hear about injury. I told you guys that when I posted the show. So yes, I think rust, more than inexperience, affected this game. That being said, you have to give the Falcons credit. Atlanta came in. They stuck with their game plan. They kind of got away from it a little bit in the second quarter. That's when we outscored them 10-3. But then they kind of put it, or 10-7, but then they put it all together and they kind of refigured out what they were going to do. That opening drive of the second half was the stuff champions are made of. And the Rams had no response defensively or offensively to that drive. And that, for all intents and purposes, was the nail in the heart. I know one of you guys out there, you had posted, and I'm sorry I don't have my info on me, I'll have it next show, said that you felt like you would just tune into the game and the Rams were down by 9 at home in the third quarter, and they kicked the field goal or in the second quarter and they kicked was it the third quarter? And they kicked the field goal instead of going for the touchdown. I'll tell you why you're right. You're right because it's the second half. You're no longer chasing points. At that point, you're trying to win the game. The Rams did a good job in the first half of taking the field goal when it was there, going for the touchdown when it was there. But you can't chase points. Now, there's no guarantee that the Rams score, okay, at 4th and 2 from the 7 or 5, whatever, 10-yard line, whatever it was. But let's assume that they do, okay? That makes it 26-17. it's not enough to win the game. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it cost the Rams, but it certainly took the momentum away from them because Atlanta was like, okay, we held them to a field goal. We kept this, we kept the lead. They didn't tie it. It's 17-13 now instead of, 17-17. Now we're going to do our thing. It's unfortunate that it worked out the way that it did. I think it was actually 19. Might have actually been 19-10 at that point. They made 19-13, whatever. Yeah, that's what it was. Doesn't matter, guys. Look, Atlanta, they came in confident, ready, and they played effective. And for us, we looked rusty. Everyone looks nervous in the first quarter. The Chiefs and Titans game, this game, the games today. Even the Patriots will show a little bit of nerves in the first quarter. That's normal. I'm not looking at that and going, oh, that's inexperience. Look, it's inexperience. I don't know what was going on with Pharoh Cooper. But you know what it is funny, guys, and I want you to keep this in mind next year. The things that plague you during the regular season, they always show up in the postseason. It to me as a coach, it's almost fascinating because you really know the makeup of your team. I have no doubt that Sean McVay knew this was not a Super Bowl winning team. This wasn't a team that was going to even make it to the conference championship game. I felt like he probably thought they were good enough to win the wild card round and then, make it a better showing against Minnesota in round 2 and pack it up and go, okay, we had a really successful year. I do think this loss left a bitter taste in his mouth because I think he was expecting to beat Atlanta. But we couldn't stop the run all year long. That reared its ugly head. And I'm telling you right now, guys, that third quarter happened because of the first quarter. And what happened in the first quarter? Special teams turnovers. What plagued us all year long? Special teams turnovers. Until we moved Pharoh Cooper into the spot, that situation never showed up again. But for the first half of the season, that was a problem. Now, Blake Countess gets a fluke bounce off of his foot. There is always luck involved in playoff games. That was an advantage for Atlanta. The Rams couldn't recover the ball. 6 points in that first quarter should never have happened. So that makes the score 20-13. And all of a sudden now, the Rams get the touchdown instead of the field goal. It's 20-17. And now they don't have to go for the touchdown. They kick the field goal and force overtime. But if frogs had wings, they wouldn't bump their rear ends when they hop, right? So there's no what ifs. So you look at the factor of what's fascinating to me is the two things that plagued us all year long. They popped up again. The inability to stop the run and special teams mistakes in the return game, specifically the punt return game. Punt return has been a major weakness for us all year long. So what happens now? I mean, we lost. Everyone's mad. I hate to be the bearer of bad news to fans in Atlanta. If you were expecting this video to be a downtrodden, what a horrible situation, we shouldn't have lost. You're not getting that from me. I tip my hat to the Atlanta Falcons. You guys won. You beat us. You beat us fair and square. And you should handle Philadelphia, and it'll be fun to see what you guys do in the conference championship game if you can get back to the Super Bowl. Keep in mind, I did pick Atlanta to win the Super Bowl in the beginning of the year. I didn't quite expect this type of season from them, but hey, it's postseason now. Anything goes, right? So, and I definitely think if Trufant stays healthy, that secondary is good enough to stop New England, and it's going to be a very interesting Super Bowl if those two hook up for a second year in a row. Would only be the second time in history that happened. So we'll have to wait and see. And I still will pick Atlanta in that Super Bowl. But Atlanta's got to beat Philly first, which has a better defense than the Rams. Hate to say it, guys, but they do. And then they've got to get past either New Orleans or Minnesota, which will have to be on the road as well, which isn't an easy task. And the Falcons haven't shown an ability to really put together those kinds of games this year. But hey, postseason's a different animal. So what about the postseason? Well, I have a lot of information to discuss on that. So the postseason for the Rams is a pretty common theme if you follow this organization's history. We have made the postseason now 29 times. This is the 29th time we've made it, which is definitely in the top 10 for NFL franchises in consistency in making the postseason. 19 times we've won the division. This was not our longest drought between postseason appearances. Ironically, in LA from 52 to 67, that was their longest postseason drought that they had experienced. This was a 13-year drought between 2004 and 2017, which was the second longest drought. Obviously, the 10-year drought from 89 to 99 is the third longest, but this was only a 6-year drought when you really look at it from an LA Rams perspective, because from 89 to 94, the Rams didn't make, or 90 to 94, the Rams didn't make the playoffs, and then last year, as the LA Rams. So it's really only a 6-year drought. Now, the really cool thing, to give you guys some optimism and hope here, just despite the fact that we have 29 postseason appearances and 19 times we've won the division, I want to go over something with you guys really quick. So our first postseason run was in 1945. We won the NFL championship against the Washington Redskins, 15-14. The Rams were kind of on the map from 45 to 55 at that point. They had missed the playoffs a few times from 46 to 48. The Rams didn't make the playoffs, but then they did again in 49. 50, 51, 52, they missed it in 53 and 54, but they made it in 55. So from 45 to 55, there was a 10-year span there where the Rams had made the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So in a 10-year period, they only missed the postseason 4 times. Then they had their drought, and then really from 67, I'm just going to say it, from 67 to 89, this team was consistently in the playoffs. Now, obviously, we missed it in 68, but we had a really good record. 70 through 72 we missed, but then 73 to 1980 we didn't miss the postseason once, and then in 81 and 82 we missed, but then 83 to 86 we didn't miss it. We missed in 87, and then 88 and 89. Now, guys, that's a long consecutive streak there. That is this span of over a 22-year period. We only missed the playoffs. I'm going to do some math here on the computer, so forgive my counting. Let's see. That would be 1 year. And then 70, 2, that would be 3, 4, 5, 6. So in a 22-year period, we only missed the playoffs 6 times. That's 16 times in a 2-year period, 2-decade period that we made the postseason. I'm getting to something here, so bear with me. So we had a 22-year run there where we were in the playoffs or relevant and consistently fighting for postseason positioning. And then, of course, you had 99 and what everyone's referring to as the greatest show on turf era. 99 to 2004, that team had only missed the playoffs 1 time in that period. 99, 2000, 2001, they all made it. Missed it in 02, and then 03 and 04. So only once in a 5-year period, in a 6-year period, the Rams missed the playoffs. Well, we made the playoffs again in 2017. So if you follow the Rams, you know this isn't going to be a one-and-done scenario. The Rams will be back in the postseason next year. And if they're not going to be in the postseason, they will be relevant, and they will be competing in playoff games for a long, long time, because that's what the Ram history shows. 45 to 55, they did it in that run. 67 to 89, they did it. 99 to 2004. There's no reason to think this team, with as young as it is, with the talent that's going to want to come to LA now that LA is winning. And think about it. You can go to the Chargers with Phillip Rivers, right? You're not going to go to San Diego for a 3-year deal. You might sign a 1-year contract, hoping that you can help Phillip Rivers get to the Super Bowl one more time, you know, of your 2 choices, or not one more time, but 1 time at least. But if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this, I'm going to sit there and go, better coach, better athletes, better defense, better D coordinator, already won the division, already has a postseason game under their belt. yeah, I want to go there. I could make that team a Super Bowl champion. So free agency is not going to be an issue, and we do have the money to play with. We have some pretty good draft picks coming up. We did lose our number 2, but we kept our number 1 for the Sammy Watkins trade. So the future looks really, really good for the Los Angeles Rams. Our postseason record dropped to 19-25. We were 19-24 going into this game. That's our overall postseason record. That's 44 postseason games that we've had. Now we're 11-7 at home now. We were 11-6. We still have a winning record as a home team. And our record on the road remains at 7-15, and our neutral site record remains 1-2, obviously being the 3 Super Bowls that we've been to, 14, 34, and 36. So, yeah, you look at this and you go, this loss was bitter. It sucks. We were the better team and we didn't win. But, guys, you got to be the better team on that day. And on that day, we were not the better team. Jared Goff looked rusty. I'm not going to say that he looked nervous. Because he didn't. I'm not going to say that he looked scared, because he didn't. I'm not going to say that he played poorly because it was the postseason. I think he played poorly because he didn't play the week before, and here we are. So it goes right back to what I said in the beginning of the show, which is why you don't take time off during the season. Guys out there that were making the argument for McVay that, we don't want to get injured, stop thinking that way. You didn't think about what if we lost Todd Gurley or Jared Goff weeks 1 through 16. Don't be those fans that just sit there and go, oh no, we need to rest our players. If you're a fan of resting players, guys, this is your outcome. This is your outcome. I don't have to say anymore. They proved my point for me. That offense looked like garbage. They were rusty. They hadn't played in over 2 weeks. Almost 2 weeks. They didn't practice the week for the 49er game, according to all reports. Hopefully you guys understand that watch this show, even those of you that disagree with me. It's been really hard to disagree with me this year. I said the Rams would win the division when no one else did, including Eric. I said that the Rams would be in the postseason this year. No one else did. And I got concerned when the Rams decided to rest their players. And now you understand why. I'm not just speaking for the sake of speaking. Okay? I played the game. I've coached the game. I've been a fan of the Rams since I was 4 years old. Okay? I've seen enough football in my lifetime to understand how this game works. And I don't care if it's 1985 or let's say 1984 because that's the last time the Rams were at home for a wild card game and they lost it. Then as well by 3, 16, 13. 13 is a common theme at home in those games. I don't care if it's 1984 or if it's 2017. You cannot rest your players when you have something at stake. And if you're going to rest in the second half. Get those guys that week of practice because it keeps things normal. Us players and coaches for that matter, we're creatures of habit. And when you disrupt that habit, you hurt your football team. And I know McVay said, well, look at what we did. We took the week off going into the game against the Giants. Then we came out and scored 51. Yeah, you were playing the New York Giants. That's number one. The New York Giants. That's number one. Number two, it's regular season. Nothing's amped up in the regular season. You get ramped up, really week 1 and 2, it's ramped up because you're no longer in preseason football. But once September's gone and you hit October football, dude, it's all normal from there. It doesn't get ramped up again until November. And there was optimism here because the Rams were playing at a high level. They'd won 4 of their last 5 games. My math is correct. Right? We beat New Orleans and Arizona. We lost to Philly. And then we beat Seattle and Tennessee. So going into that 49er game, we'd won 4 of our last 5 games. Should have been 5 of our last 6 games. But we rested starters. And then we went in the postseason, it goes 3 levels from the regular season. Like, you might get that occasional game like the Seattle game where it's one step below playoff football. I would even argue Tennessee. But then you've got a whole nother level. So then you go from the 49ers to the postseason. That's a 2-layer step up that you've got to make. Atlanta had been playing postseason football for the last 3 weeks. We had played playoff caliber football for about a 3-week period as well. With Minnesota, the Cardinals thrown in there, New Orleans, Philadelphia, and Seattle. Now, I would argue New Orleans, Philadelphia, Seattle, and Tennessee. So we had a stretch there too where we had 5 playoff type games in a 6-week period. So we were definitely ready for this game. The only thing that I can look at that can explain that loss, it isn't inexperience, it's rust, guys. Don't rest your starters. I'm not going to talk about this again. I won't mention this, but maybe briefly in the recap show. But Jared Goff looked off. Todd Gurley looked tentative. And I don't know if you guys agree with this, and please comment in the comment section if you do. But man, this just felt slow. Like in the first quarter, both teams, Falcons and the Rams, it just really seemed like even the Tennessee Kansas City game, if you watch that, it was really slow paced. And then things ramped up, which I thought was very interesting. So, guys, I'm really excited for 2018. I think we're going to get some really good free agents. There's a couple things that I want to do too here. I want to apologize to Les Snead personally. Not that I think he watches this, but in the event that he does, I was really hard on Les, and I have to hand it to the Rams scouting people and the general manager, which is Les Snead, in the sense that they really nailed those late round picks that they had. They didn't go in the direction we would have gone as fans, but the coaches obviously felt confident enough in the talent that they had that they didn't need to worry about O-line. Havenstein will hopefully continue to get better. Jamon Brown will hopefully continue to get better. Roger Saffold made he did get better. He's made it. Saffold and Whitworth right now, and Sullivan, those 3 guys, they are the backbone of this offensive line. And they all play at the very same level. We just need to get the backside, or the front side, if you will, up to pace. I don't like where Havenstein was this week against Atlanta. I thought he played poorly. I definitely think Jamon Brown made a few too many critical mistakes in pass protection as well. Those guys need to improve, but maybe we can get another lineman or 2 in free agency, or maybe this is the year we draft a lineman. At this point, I'm not going to question what Les Snead does. I'm going to go back to what I always used to do, which was I'm not going to be critical of picks until either A, it's absolutely obvious what we needed, or what we need. And this year it wasn't. I was focused on the O-line because, as we've seen this year, when the O-line plays at a high level, you win more football games. But the Rams didn't have weapons either. This wasn't, going into this year, this wasn't a singular fix. There was holes everywhere. Secondary, wide receiver, tight end had no depth. Offensive line, backup running back, which, I'd like to see more of Justin Davis. Malcolm Brown played pretty well this year. I want to see more Lance Dunbar. Hopefully we re-sign him, but if he wants big contract, big money, then that's not going to be happening. But we should be a lot better next year. And with Seattle losing some pieces to that puzzle, with the Cardinals falling apart with retirement, this is going to be the Rams' run. Whether it's going to be a 3, 4, 5-year run, or a 10-year run, or a 22-year run like we experienced from 67 to 89, I don't know. What I do know is that the Rams will be back next year in the postseason. And in what capacity? I'm not going to sit here and say division champion because I want to see what the 49ers do and I want to see what the Rams do in the offseason. I told you guys Garoppolo was the real deal. I wasn't kidding. I felt like the 49ers were only going to lose 1 or 2 games with Garoppolo as their starting quarterback. I figured they might lose to Tennessee, and I figured they'd lose to the Rams. But once the Rams didn't play their starters, I knew the 49ers were going to win. So I know a lot of people, Eric's like, oh, remember Eric? If you're watching this, you called me. I'm calling you out because you laughed at me when I said Jimmy Garoppolo was going to turn this thing around. And now look at where we are. So here's my hope. My hope is, guys, as we move forward, that you are as optimistic for 2018 as I am, that you guys appreciate the fact that this is a franchise that has a history of making postseason runs, plural. They're not a one-and-done team ordinarily. They've only been one and done, as I said to you earlier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times in 29 postseason appearances. So less than 50% of the time we're one and done. So I'm okay with that. Normally we win one of these games, and we didn't this year, and that's okay. We will next year. I'm excited for the Rams in 2018, barring injuries, which is always something that could submarine the season, but that's what this offseason's about. See, it shouldn't be barring injury. We need depth. I think that's the one thing we learned from the 49er game. We need depth. So we'll see what the Rams do moving forward here. But I want to conclude with just 3 things, okay? And we'll call this my 2017 takeaways and then a request, if you will. Key point number 1, the Rams relied a lot on Todd Gurley this year, and for good reason. Todd Gurley's a playmaker. I want to see the Rams continue to develop the wide receivers and the passing game because that's only going to benefit them moving forward. My second key is these two are together. This year was really important. The key to 2017 was, and I really feel like McVay did this, find out what Tavon Austin can or cannot do. And once you figure out what he can and cannot do, figure out if what he can do is worth $46 million. Now, my bold prediction was that Todd Gurley was going to rush for 308 yards, or not rush for 308 yards. He's going to have 308 total yards in this game. Yeah, that's why it's a bold prediction. It didn't come true. It's called a bold prediction for a reason. I'm not going to say that this is a bold prediction, but I think that this is a accurate prediction. I don't think the Rams will have Tavon Austin on the 2018 roster. I think they will trade him, or they will cut him to save money. Because I think the second key, which is married to these 2 points are together. Find out what Tavon Austin can or can't do, and find out what Tavon Austin can do. Is it worth $46 million? Because that's money that they have to do here, which is give to Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald not only proved that he was every bit as good as his rookie contract is, not every bit as good as his rookie contract, every bit as good of a defensive player in the NFL as we've seen in a long, long time. And when you start getting comparisons made to Mean Joe Green, you need to lock that man up for the long haul. We need to trade Tavon Austin and give that money to Aaron Donald. My second key this year was to figure out was for McVay to figure out, was Tavon Austin worth keeping on this roster, and is Aaron Donald as good as advertised? That was key for this 2017 season moving into 2018. My third key was to absolutely put Jared Goff in a position where he could show what he's able to do. He had a great year this year. But as I promised you guys back when the season started, when I did my Jared Goff is not a bust rant, I'm not going to sit here and pound the drum that Jared Goff is the real deal. Jared Goff had a really good bounce back season. He got a fair shake, and he demonstrated a lot of good football. I thought he did some good things in 2016. I thought he improved dramatically in 2017. If he has a year in 2018 like he did in 2017, I think we can officially take the label of franchise quarterback and put that on this kid. I would have liked to see him play better in the postseason, but I chalk that more up to rust than I do inexperience, nerves, or inability. So I am going to reserve one more year on my judgment of Jared Goff. But you guys know where I'm leaning, and you know how much I defended this kid through the course of the offseason. Now, I come to my request. My request is this. For you guys to truly appreciate and understand how I do this show. I don't just say things for the sake of saying things. I don't just get on a microphone or get on the computer and start spitting all this information out. I'm coming from a place of knowledge and understanding. You look at what I said this year. I said that Todd Gurley was going to have a good year. Tyler Higbee, Todd Gurley, Jared Goff, they were buddies. They were hanging out. Cooper Kupp. I felt like after the first couple of games was going to be a really good player. I said Jared Goff wasn't a bust and that he was going to have a big year. I said his second half was going to be his coming out party of the second half of the regular season. It was. I said the Rams would win the division. They did. I said the Rams would make the postseason this year. They did. There's a lot more that I've said over the course of my videos that has been true. So I hope you guys understand I'm not going to come at this as a homer. I'm going to come at this as an analyst that watches and follows and is a diehard Rams fan. But I'm going to give you the perspective that the media will not. It's going to be unbiased because that's what my job's supposed to be. Now, yes, it's got a heavy Ram flavor because that's my team and that's the name of the channel. But I'm going to look at this as if I was being paid by the Los Angeles Rams to be intellectually honest while covering them. Of course, I'm not being paid by the Los Angeles Rams. That would be a beautiful dream come true. But I'm going to continue to do it this way. And I'm going to call things out when I see it. And I appreciate all of the corrections that you guys have made through the course of the year. One of the big corrections that was made was I said that this was the Rams' first postseason game in the Coliseum since the 1978 divisional playoff game against Minnesota, which I said was 34-13. It was actually 34-10, but that was wrong. The next week they hosted the championship game against the Dallas Cowboys in a very forgettable 28-0 shellacking by the Dallas Cowboys. So there's been some corrections made along the way, and I really appreciate that, guys, and I want you guys to keep up with that. But I hope you guys can appreciate what I'm doing, and when I say something, acknowledge it. Here's another example. That doesn't even have to do with the Rams. You remember that guard from Indiana that I really wanted the Rams to get? Yeah. He made second team All-Pro for the San Diego Chargers. According to Phillip Rivers, he was one of the biggest factors in the turnaround for the Chargers' offensive line play this year. He could have been a Ram. Obviously, the kid from Western Kentucky, he got hurt, so we'll see what he can do next year. But he definitely is going to be – that's going to upgrade the offensive line even more when he's healthy and can come back to play. So my analysis on guys isn't also done just all willy-nilly. I do watch college football. I may not pick the guys you pick. I may rag the guys that you like, but there's a reason. I'm not always right, and I can appreciate that, and I can acknowledge that, and I can admit that. But this year, at least for 2017, more often than not, I've been right. My predictions, I think I'm 25 games over 500. I know Eric beat me out this season. He comes at it with a really unique perspective. I know you guys don't necessarily like his analysis, but, it is what it is. So I really enjoyed doing these this year. I'm looking forward to more in the future. and we'll do the recap show on Wednesday. I just want to kind of talk to the Ramley a little bit and give you guys some optimism. A lot of keys this year. Like I said, the biggest key coming into this year was to make sure that Jared Goff had continual growth. He did. Todd Gurley to have a bounce back year. He did. And to figure out what Tavon Austin can and can't do, and if what he can do, is it worth $46 million? That was key to figure out this year, and we figured it out. And obviously, is Aaron Donald the real deal? Yes. Yes, he is. So those three keys are going to be pivotal moving forward into 2018. Guys, don't be too upset. We did it. We made the postseason. And yeah, we would have liked to keep playing a little bit longer, but you know what? You tip your hat to the Atlanta Falcons. You acknowledge a great franchise or a great team when you see it. And the Falcons have been playing really good football of late. I'm hoping my Super Bowl prediction is at least 50% accurate. Hopefully, because my winner is still in it. I picked Atlanta in the beginning of the year to win it. We'll see if that happens or not. Their opponent's going to be different because I picked the Raiders, and that clearly didn't happen, although John Gruden officially an Oakland Raider. So we'll see how that changes things over. That wraps it up, guys. I appreciate everything. I love you. You're great fans. I appreciate everything you do, even those of you that yell at me. It keeps me on my toes, and it keeps me fresh. And for those of you that follow me and love me, hey, feelings mutual. Keep the comments coming. Keep the subscriptions coming. Let's get to over 1,000 for 2018, and let's get this show at a whole nother level. Last comment and this is my parting thought for those of you that say you want me to get some upgraded material. That may happen this year. It's just going to take some time. So you're going to have to deal with the old format until I get more money and I can get some things taken care of. So without further ado, thanks for watching. That's my take on the wild card. Stay happy, my friends. Stay upbeat. This was a great year. Didn't end the way we wanted, but we got here. Go Rams!